Hello everyone, it's Miss LaChance back again with another Read Aloud video, and today I do have a special guest here with me. His name is Griffin and he is a 5-year-old toy schnoodle, and Griffin loves to be read to. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to hold Griffin here on my lap and we are going to read chapters 36 through 40 of our Read Aloud book, The Wild Robot Escapes by Peter Brown. And in the last chapter, I left us off on a cliffhanger. There were flocks of geese that were coming through the farm. They were migrating down to south because it is approaching winter time. And in the very last sentence of the last chapter, it said, "No, Roz wanted to remember her old life, which was good because someone from her old life was about to appear." So, in chapter 36, like I showed you in the end of the last video, it's called The Unusual Flock. So let's see if a familiar face or voice will reappear in this chapter. Griffin, are you ready? He's going to reposition here. All right. Another flock of geese was approaching the farm, but this flock was unusual. It wasn't flying south like the others. It was flying north in a perfect V formation, and it was led by a young, graceful goose. The flock flew once around the farm buildings and then delicately touched down in the barnyard. The leader whispered some words to the others, and then he fluttered in through the barn door. The cows looked up from their stalls as the goose perched himself on a railing near the middle of the barn. Then the goose cleared his I'm getting a little jumbled up there. Then the goose cleared his throat, shook his tail feathers, and announced to the herd, "I am looking for a robot named Roz. My name is Brightbill. I am her son." Oh my goodness, Brightbill is returning. Chapter 37 is called The Reunion, and here we have Roz reuniting with her long-lost son, Brightbill, from her old life on the island. I'm so excited to read this chapter. Something was wrong with the cows. Their excited moos echoed out from the barn and across the farm. Roz sent the milk truck away for its evening deliveries and hurried off to see what the ruckus was about. When she stepped into the barn, she found the entire herd crowded together. As the robot started pushing her way through, the cows turned to her and smiled. And then Roz saw him, her beloved son, Brightbill. As you know, reader, robots don't feel emotions, not the way animals do. But in that moment, in that barn, nobody had any doubt how Roz felt. She rushed forward and scooped her son into her arms. "Brightbill," she cried, "is it really you?" I'm just going to show you that picture again. What a beautiful moment here, a mother and her son reuniting. "It's really me," Brightbill nuzzled his mother's face. "But how did you find me?" said Roz. "Ma, you're famous. You were all anyone could talk about at the wintering grounds. It started with the flocks of geese that stopped here on their migrations. They shared your story with everyone they met. Your story spread from flock to flock, from north to south, from east to west. Eventually, your story made its way to me. I took off as soon as I heard where you were. I didn't even tell the others. But we caught up to him. Loudwing, the old goose, fluttered over the herd and gently landed on a cow's back. Brightbill wasn't the only one who wanted to see you, Roz." The rest of the flock appeared, and the robot found herself surrounded by old friends and family. Squawking and mooing and laughing and cheering filled the barn. But then came a loud, clear voice that only the robot understood. "Roz, what are you doing?" The animals hushed. Roz slowly turned around, and there were Jaya and Jad standing in the doorway. The children had seen everything. Okay, Chapter 38 is called The Truth. Maybe this is when Roz finally is accepting that she will probably have to tell the children who have become her friends as well, right? Children can be very sneaky, and when Jaya and Jad heard the ruckus coming from the barn, they silently sneaked over to investigate. Now they were staring at a very strange scene indeed. Roz was standing in the middle of the barn, surrounded by the entire herd of cows. For some reason, a flock of geese was there as well, and one of the geese was being cradled in the robot's arms. But what most confused the children were the wild animal noises Roz had just been making. The thing is, children aren't just sneaky, they're also smart. And it didn't take long for Jaya and Jad to make sense of that strange scene. "Those stories Roz told us about the robot on the island," said Jad to his sister. "They were about her." "The goose in Roz's arms," said Jaya to her brother. "That must be her son." All of Roz's stories came flooding back to the children. The robot, the island, the wild animals, the adventures. Those stories seemed so fanciful. Could they really be true? "You are correct, children. Those robot stories are about me," admitted Roz, with a hint of sadness in her voice. "There were so many times I wanted to tell you the truth about my past, but I was afraid the truth would frighten you." The robot motioned to the goose in her arms. "This is my son. His name is Brightbill." Reader, there's another important quality that children possess. In addition to being sneaky and smart, they're also compassionate. Very true. From my 2 years of teaching now under my belt, I can relate to that. Children are very, very compassionate. Children care about others and about the world, and as Jaya and Jad gazed at Roz and Brightbill, their little hearts were full of compassion. "Please do not tell your father about me," said Roz. "To him, I am just a machine. If he learns the truth, he will send me back to the robot factory where I will be destroyed. But you must do what you feel is right. My life is in your hands now." The children looked at each other and smiled. "Don't worry, Roz," said Jaya. "Your secret is safe with us," said Jad. Okay, so now it looks like the children are finally on board with this secret. We're going to read 2 more chapters today, and chapter 39 is called The Allies. I want you to think back to some of our lamb time lessons with Mrs. Scremin from the past year. Do you remember what that word ally means? If you do, go ahead and comment in the comment section below. What is an ally? Jaya and Jad would do anything to have their own mother back. So they understood how happy Brightbill and Roz must have felt in that moment. But they also understood that this happy moment couldn't last forever. Brightbill couldn't live on the farm, and Roz couldn't be her true self around their father. Life seemed so unfair. The children knew what needed to happen. "Roz, you need to go home," said Jaya. "You need to be with your family and your friends on your island," said Jad. "I wish I could go home, but your father would never allow it," said Roz. "Just run away," said the girl. "I ran away once. It was easy. But then I started feeling hungry, so I came home and made myself a sandwich." "Running away might be easy for you, but not for me," said Roz. "Your father can track my movements. If he sees me trying to escape, he will think I am defective, and he will send me away to be destroyed." You okay, Griffin? An uncomfortable question popped into Jaya's mind. "Roz, don't take this the wrong way," she began, but is it possible that you are defective?" "Oh, you want to go down, Griff?" "All right, say goodbye to my friends." "Don't say that, Jaya," cried her brother. "No, it is okay," said the robot. "I have asked myself that same question. I do not feel defective. I feel different. Is being different the same as being defective? I don't think so, said Jaya, or else we're all a little defective. I love that saying. We're all a little defective, because everybody's different, right? So if Roz is a little bit different, right? And that means everybody's a little bit different, then maybe we are all defective. You saved my life, and now I'm going to save yours, said Jad, with a look of determination in his eyes. I know you can only access farming information, Roz, so you let us handle the research. There has to be a way for you to safely escape, but we'll need time to figure out a plan. The robot exchanged a few animal words with her son, and then she said to the children, Brightbill must soon lead his flock back to their wintering grounds. However, he can return here in the spring. The boy slowly nodded. We should have you ready by then. The girl looked concerned. Roz, even if you safely escape from this farm, how will you get all the way home to your island? Leave that to Brightbill and me, said the robot. Together we will find our way home. I have faith in the two of us, and I have faith in the two of you. Here we have a picture of Jaya and Jad. All right, this is the last chapter that we're going to read today, called chapter 40, and it's called The Instincts. So I'm wondering if there are any instincts that Roz is kind of feeling in her body, or maybe it's talking about animal instincts. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The next few days were a blur. Roz rushed through her daily tasks so she could have more time with the flock. The geese talked about Chit-Chat the squirrel and the beaver family and the other animals on the island. Roz talked about the robot factory and the Sharifs and his life on the farm. But the geese were always aware of their instincts, calling them back to the warm wintering grounds. And when they awoke one morning to find the countryside dusted with snow, they knew it was time to go. By some miracle, Roz and Brightbill had been reunited, and now they had to say goodbye all over again. The flock stood in the pasture with Roz as the children in the herd looked on. Brightbill fluttered up to his mother's shoulder and wrapped his wings around her face. I'll return in the spring, said the goose, and then you and I are going to find our way home. Please be careful, said the robot. Oops, sorry about that. I'll return in the spring, said the goose, and then you and I are going to find our way home. Please be careful, said the robot. I do not want to lose you again. We'll keep your son out of trouble, squawked Loudwing with a smile. The geese waved goodbye to Roz and their new farm friends. Then Brightbill shook his tail feathers, beat his wings, and led his flock into the sky. All right, and that was the last chapter that we're going to read together today. I'll give you a sneak peek of chapter 41 called The Winter. Okay. So we have actually almost traveled through all 4 seasons, right? This book started out in the spring and then the summer. Then there was a chapter called The Autumn, and now we're headed into the winter. So I'm super excited to find out what happens next, what Roz and Jaya and Jad conspire more in their plan to help Roz escape. And I'm excited to see if Brightbill will return after the winter when he's migrating back up to the north. Okay, these are all great things to be curious about. And I will see you in tomorrow's video where we will read chapters 41 through 45. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.